What's up, everyone? Happy Wednesday, or whatever day it is that you're listening to this. This is the Let Go, Let God podcast, and I'm your host, Erika Ray, and I'm super thrilled that you decided to tune in today. Whether it's your first time or you are an ongoing guest, I'm grateful that you're here. So today I am in my comfy clothes. I have a squishmallow right here. It is cold outside. Okay, so I'm in Arizona and it has actually been getting toasty already. It's the beginning of March, but it was kind of hot in February towards the end. And I was thinking, oh no, this is not setting us up for a good summer. So I'm grateful that it is chilly outside. I think it's chilly. I'm kind of a weenie when it comes to the cold. But, anyways, I had to get warm. So that's why I'm in my sweats, my sweater, and yeah, so go get your comfy clothes on too and join me for this episode. We're going to be talking about bonding and building and maintaining relationships. This is such an important topic and it has truly changed my life. And I wish that there were things that were said to me before so that I could help learn how to build good, healthy relationships. And I just kind of figured them out along the way. So I'm going to hopefully give you some tips and tricks and share what's worked for me. And hopefully that will help you guys out. So I am going to start by praying though. I'm going to pray us into this conversation and then we will get started. Dear Lord, we thank you so much for this beautiful day. I just pray that you come into this conversation with me and help me to meet the guests where they're at, whatever they may need to hear or see from you, God. I just pray that you let that be exposed during this episode. I pray that all the words that come out of my mouth are from you and from you only, Lord. Just please guide the conversation well between me and the guests. And I thank you again for your word, Lord. I thank you that I have the opportunity to do this. And I thank you that you're giving the guests the ability to listen and watch this. In your name I pray. Amen. All right. I don't know why. I feel like I'm out of breath. Maybe I'm talking too fast. Okay. So, number one, before we get into bonding, I want to talk about what bonding is because I think maybe we don't have a good definition of what it may be. Or maybe you're like, Erika, I know what bonding is. I'm great at it. I hope so. But for those of you who don't know, the definition that I have here is bonding is the establishment of a relationship with someone based on shared feelings, interests, or experiences. So we'll get into bonding and how to bond with someone because I think whenever I'm listening to podcasts or sermons or whatever it may be, I love the content, but if there's not any applicable things for me or any real life experiences, it's harder for me to apply it to my life. So I want to try to do the best I can with that. So, how do you bond with someone? Bonding with people is one of my absolute favorite things to do. I feel like it is crucial to bond with someone in order to have a deep connection with them. Now, bonding does come easier to some people than it does to others. I am more extroverted, and so bonding is, I always will say it's one of my hobbies. Whenever people ask me what I like to do, I say I love to go to new coffee shops and sit down with people that I know or people that I want to get to know and just bond with them, get to know them. I love that. I thrive off of that, but I understand that's not super easy for people because they may think, okay, well, what are we going to talk about? What if it gets awkward and I'm not saying anything? What if it's weird and I'm not having a good time or they're not having a good time? I don't know what questions run through your mind. And trust me, I have those questions too. I still get this slightly anxious feeling whenever I go into new scenarios where I'm going to meet a lot of people. So if I go to an event where I don't know anybody and it's just me and I have to go and make friends and whatnot, that is nerve-wracking to me. But I force myself to do it because I know that it's good for me, but I would prefer not to do that. And so I wanted to minimize my social anxiety, so I started practicing bonding with people one-on-one or in small groups. And I think that this is so, so great and so crucial, like I said, to build healthy relationships. So I I believe I shared this. I definitely shared this a couple years ago when I started the podcast. Whenever I had a lot of time on my hands, I just decided to go and have a bunch of coffee dates with people and get to know them. And that's when I truly fell in love with bonding with others and also found the significance and the importance of it. And when I found myself in those social situations kind of freaking out, I kind of thought to myself, okay, what can I do to help myself not feel this way? And bonding with other people beforehand was something that I did. So if I knew I was going to go to an event and I didn't know anybody, but I had kind of some access to talk to them, then I would reach out beforehand and go meet up with them, because then in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, at least I'll know one person that I can talk to. And it's so great. And so I have a group of friends. I have different groups of friends and I love them so much, but I really try to be intentional about knowing each person in the group personally. So, for example, I lead a small group with some of my friends, and there's there's not too many people in the small group. There's 6 or 7 of us, and I will definitely have one-on-one time with those people in my small group, because then when I come together with them in the whole group, I feel like I know them personally, and I feel like I know their heart a little bit more versus like, oh, I'm just seeing you every week at small group. But when we have coffee on a different day of the week, then I'm really seeing their heart that day, and I feel like I can just connect with them better. So I think it's so important to be intentional about your relationships and bonding with other people, because it's truly going to change your life, and you're going to see how much more rich and full your life is when you get deep and when you get vulnerable with people. I I have been brought something has been brought to my attention recently, and I really feel like the Lord has been teaching me that I need to be super emotionally vulnerable. Now, when I say this, there is a big caution sign to this, because we don't just want to go and share our emotions with every single person, because we might not have a safe space to share them, or we might get a weird response and it could actually make things worse. And me and my friend Casey, we talked about this on our friendship podcast where we answered a bunch of questions. But when you are emotionally vulnerable with someone, it gives them the comfortability to be emotionally vulnerable with you. And in that, you just bond so deeply. I can think about so many times where I've sat and cried with friends, or I've sat and laughed with friends, and we've shared some deep things. And after that, it's like our friendship went to the next level, and it's so cool. And then you're like, ooh, I want more of that. And when you're not being vulnerable and open, then you're starting to create these walls of like, oh, I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna figure it out. I don't need to talk about it. And I had a really, really hard time with this just in my romantic relationship. And I really would love to do a series on this with my fiance, Kaden, and just talk about all the struggles and all the amazing things about our relationship. But something that I personally struggled with was being emotionally available to him, because I didn't want to share too much, and I just thought to myself, oh, I can handle it by myself. I don't need to share it with him. But then little did I know, it would build up and build up and build up, and then it would be like a bomb would go off, and he'd be like, what the heck is happening? And I'm like, all these things. And he's like, I didn't know. And so the Lord has really been teaching me how emotional vulnerability is important with the right people. Now, how do you know who the right people are? Well, you start to practice bonding with other people, and you're not going to click with everybody. I can't sit and have a really deep conversation with all the people in my life, not even all the people that I'm close with. It's actually cool because I it's almost like I have different people for different things, which I think is so cool. I have some of my married friends that I can go to for relationship advice. I have some of my friends who have gone through a certain situation who I know, oh my gosh, they're going to really be able to listen and hear me out. And so I think that is another important thing to do. So, I talked about how for me personally, I like to just start bonding with one person, and it makes you more comfortable and it just becomes easier to talk to people. And you may be thinking, what do we talk about? What am I going to say to them? Well, there's a couple answers here, but one, if you have a hard time with conversing with others and not knowing what to say, this may sound silly, but Google or chat GPT some questions of what you can ask the other person. I'm telling you, okay, I do this a lot of the times with sometimes with my friends, or especially me and Kaden. We will do this. My fiance Kaden will go and we'll type in like, what are some questions we can ask each other, and we just go through the list of questions. But sometimes if I'm nervous about meeting somebody for a first coffee date, like one of my gal friends or one of my this gal I've never met before, I will Google some questions on what to ask. And you can get the basics in. Like, for example, if you don't know anything about them, there's so much to learn about a person. Like, what do you like to do for fun? What do you do for work? When did you become a Christian? Or what are your religious beliefs if they're not a Christian? Do you have any siblings? What's your family life like? I don't know if I asked this already, but where are you from? Uh, are you in a relationship right now? What are the things that are going the best in your life right now? What are some tough things that you're going through? They can be such simple questions. And if all else fails, literally any random question. What's your favorite flavor of ice cream? Where's your favorite restaurant to go to? Because when you start asking one question, it leads to the other and the next and the next. And I don't know if you guys have ever had conversations with people before where you ask them a question and then they just give you one answer, a one-worded answer, and then you ask another question. Same thing, one-worded answer. Another question, same thing, one-worded answer. And then, I don't know about you, but in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, come on, give me something more. I want to know more about you. And it can be kind of exhausting. But when both people are doing it back and forth, then it just leads to amazing conversation. You could have asked what your favorite flavor of this person's favorite flavor of ice cream was, and then you could end up talking about maybe their best trip that they ever took out of the country, where they found this amazing ice cream, and then they start talking about how this trip changed their life, and these people that they met. You never know. So you just got to start asking questions. That's all you got to do. And if you don't know any questions, Google them. Because I definitely do that sometimes, and now I have conversed with a lot of people, so I feel like I have a file in my brain of what to ask. But then sometimes when I spend a lot of time with people, I'm like, I think I know everything about you. So then I Google more questions. So, anyways, those are some tips on how to bond with others and what questions to ask. And I want to say, why is bonding with people important? Well, number one, bonding with Jesus is the most important thing, because when you bond with him, we know that scriptures say you're building that intimate relationship with him. And then in that, he's going to reveal more things to you, and he's going to guide your life. And so we want to emulate, I believe that is the correct word. We want to emulate what we're doing with Jesus with the people in our lives, because God says one of his greatest commands is to love God and love other people. So first off, we want to practice bonding with God. So taking that time alone, asking him the questions. Write down the questions that you have for God and sit and seek the answers and pray to him and read his word, get to know him and bond with God, because that's going to actually help you bond with other people too, because in that, you're going to discover more of who God is, plus you're going to discover more of who you are in the process. So bonding is so important, number one, because God calls us to do it with him. And the second thing I want to share is a couple of verses of why bonding with other people is so important. So I have here Ecclesiastes 4 9 through 10. Two people are better off than one, for they can help each other succeed. If one person falls, the other can reach out and help. But someone who falls alone is in real trouble. So, when we have built relationships with other people, we can have amazing accountability partners. I know that there's areas in my life that I'm weak in, and I know that if I don't share that with anybody, then I am more susceptible to falling back into it. But if I bring somebody into it, then my first thought is, oh my gosh, I don't want to tell this person that I failed, so I just probably won't fail. Because I don't know if you guys have ever thought of, like, when you're doing something, sometimes you're like, oh, I'm all alone, nobody's gonna know. But then if God was right next to you and you think about God being right next to you, it's probably gonna change your decision to do that thing that maybe you shouldn't be doing. So when I know that I've asked this person to keep me accountable, and then the thing comes up that I feel like I want to do that I shouldn't do, but then I think about telling that person that is going to hold me accountable, I'm like, ooh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to tell the person that I failed. I don't want to, in my quiet time the next day, tell God that I failed and just be sorry about that. I don't want that. So two people are better off than one. They can help each other out. And so we can help keep each other accountable so that we don't fall. Another verse is Proverbs 27:17. As iron sharpens iron, so a friend sharpens a friend. This is so good, guys. We should build each other up, not tear each other down. And I feel like I've heard this statistic so many times, but I don't know where it actually came from. But they say that you are the sum of your 5 closest friends, I believe, which is so wild. So I'm 27, and if I look back on my life, I've had different friend groups all throughout my life. And it's actually really interesting because when I think about my friend group in elementary school versus college, or versus high school versus college versus post college versus my adult life, later 20s, it's so wild because I loved all of those friend groups, but I was definitely very similar to the friends that I hung out with. And so remember that we can sharpen each other up, and like I said, build each other up. 1 Thessalonians 5:11 says, "Therefore encourage one another and build one another up, just as you are doing." My word for the year is encourage, so I think about that verse a lot. I want to be the person that's always encouraging other people and also very open and vulnerable to other people so that I can allow them the space to do the same for me and other people, because life is hard and it's not fun to do it on our own. It's harder to do it on our own, even though we think it's better. It's not. It's a lie. It is a lie from the enemy. It is not better to do this life alone, and that is in the word too. So, continuing on, I want to go over how to maintain healthy relationships. So I have 5 different points on how to maintain healthy relationships. So you might be in one or two places. One, maybe you are in a rough spot and you don't really have any friends. Maybe you don't have those safe people and you're thinking, "Man, I really want this, but I don't have that. How do I even start?" Well, in that case, I would say go to your local church or go find a church and just start getting plugged into anything and everything. I remember whenever I was in a single period of my life right before I had started dating Kaden, I remember I went to church, I got involved, and I did anything and everything that I could, and that really set me up for success. I made so many friends. I really got out of my comfort zone, and I got pretty comfortable making new friends and also being alone, because it is comfort. You do want to get comfortable being alone. You don't want to always be with other people. You do want to be able to take some reflection time, because that is very important. But if you're in that position and you're thinking, "Man, I need some friends, or I need a new friend group," then get plugged into your local church, start going to small groups, start going to any events, ask if you can volunteer and help out. You'll be surprised at the people that you're going to meet. Plus, when you put in the work, God will God will help you out. He's going to lead you on the right path, and he's going to see that you're trying, you're putting yourself out there to make new friends, and he's going to be so happy and he's going to help you along the way. So if you're in that position, don't worry. You never know when you can meet your best friend. I remember I felt like I stumbled across my best friend, which I think I shared that in the other podcast, so you can go back and listen to that. But you never know, you could meet your best friend or the love of your life tomorrow or today. And so all you have to do is take that first obedient step in doing that. And maybe also it could be at work. Maybe ask a coworker to hang out. Maybe you've never hung out with somebody from your work before, but take the leap of faith and ask them to hang out. I remember when I was 18 and I got my first job, I was working at this daycare, and I remember I was helping out in this girl's classroom for the first time, and I think it was our first time meeting or maybe our second time, I don't really know, but she asked me if I wanted to hang out and go to the mall. And then I remember my initial thought was, I don't even know you. But then my second thought was like, that sounds fun. So we ended up going to the mall, and that was when I was 18. So that was years ago. We're still friends to this day. I just saw her a couple weeks ago. And I'm really grateful that she asked me to hang out, because I don't know if I would have asked her, but she took the leap of faith and asked me. Worst case scenario, someone says no. You don't want to hang out with someone who doesn't want to hang out with you anyways, so it's fine. So anyways, you could be in that position, or you could be in a position where you're like, Erika, I'm good. I have lots of friends. I maintain healthy relationships. I don't really need to listen to this. If you're in that position, I'm honestly so glad that you have people around you, because it's life-changing, like I said. But just some things to help maintain those relationships. One, be a loyal friend. Be a loyal friend, because the second you can't trust somebody, that makes things so, so tough. And so be a loyal friend and just be an honest person with anybody and everybody, because that's going to build that trust. If somebody shares a deep secret with you and then you go and tell 3 other people, then even if they don't find out, that really isn't right. But if they find out, they're definitely not going to want to trust you again. So that's not helping your case, and you're hurting another person. So be a loyal friend, be trustworthy. Second, resolve conflict fast. So this is a really big one that is not always easy. I used to be really bad at confrontation and dealing with conflict. I did not like it. I did not want to be a part of it. I was such a melancholy peacemaker type of person. I'm still kind of like that. If it's not a big deal, I'm like, whatever you guys want to do, it's fine. But I'm realizing that I can't always dodge conflict, and sometimes I have to be the person to bring it up, especially in a romantic relationship. You cannot dodge conflict. You can try, but it will not work out. But even with friendships, because what happens and what has happened to me personally has been, I have let things build up and fester, and I've told myself, oh, it's not a big deal. I don't need to talk about this. And then I do that one too many times, and boom, like I said earlier, explosion. And then my friend's confused because they didn't even know I was upset. I'm confused because I'm like, how did that one little thing set me off? But really it was the 15 things that compiled in my head. And so my rule for myself is, if something bothers me and I don't think it's that big of a deal, then I will give it a little bit of time. And if it's still bothering me after 24 hours, I'll just bring it up. I'll bring it up and be like, hey, when you did this, it made me feel this way. I'm sure you didn't mean to make me feel this way. Don't ever attack somebody, because then they're going to come off being defensive and they're not going to want to listen. But if you come to them with love and be like, hey, you did this or you said this and it made me feel this way. I don't think that you meant to, but I just wanted to let you know. Then if they're a true friend, they're going to most likely be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't even realize that I said that or did that or that came off weird. I've had to do that before, and it's definitely uncomfortable, but it's better than me just sitting with it for days and days and days and then thinking about it and letting it fester. So, resolve conflict fast. That is the key word, fast. 3, confront privately. So, the worst thing, this is kind of like with children too. The worst thing you can do is tell them that they did something wrong in front of everybody else, in front of all of their friends. It's so embarrassing. And so if you have a problem with somebody or somebody said something, take them to the side and confront them. Sorry, guys, someone's walking to my door right now and I'm looking to see who it is. I might have to answer it. One second. All right, I'm back. Sorry, someone came and was asking if I wanted solar on my house, but I do not own this house. So, anyways, 3 was confronting privately. You don't want to confront them in front of a bunch of other people. 1, it's not kind. Like I said, it could be embarrassing and hurtful, and just talking to them privately, pulling them aside is the best way to do it for sure. I remember one time I was at this church group thing, and I was split up into a little partnership with this one girl, and I remember she said something to me, and it totally rubbed me the wrong way. And I was really upset about it. And I didn't really know this girl. She was a lot older than me, and I was just very, very confused and kind of hurt by what she said. And I remember I got so upset, and then the Lord told me, hey, you need to confront this girl about this. And so I pulled her aside privately, and I told her what she said and how it made me feel. And it was the most relieving, I don't know the right word. Basically, it was just a big load off my shoulders because she responded so well and so loving and said, oh my gosh, Erika, I'm so sorry. I did not mean that. This is actually what I meant. And I just got clarification because a lot of the times it can just be miscommunication, which is one of the biggest reasons that we all get in arguments. I know it's the biggest reason I have gotten in arguments. I miscommunicate, or I think someone's miscommunicating with me, and then I make assumptions, and that's just another thing. I didn't put that in here, but don't make assumptions about your friends. Don't do it about anyone. Don't do it. All right, so number 4, trust what your friends say. Trust what your friends say. And if they give you a reason not to, that's a different situation, but still, you know, sometimes people lie, sometimes people hurt you, and if you've chosen to forgive them and move on, then you need to actually forgive them and move on. And you'll be able to see a trend of, okay, this is still happening, and then that's when you can maybe take a step back. But trust your friends. Why wouldn't you trust them? And something that I used to struggle with as well was I feel like I was always the type of person that would get taken advantage of in a way of I would just let everybody kind of step on me, do whatever they wanted. And I'd be like, yeah, we can do that. That sounds good. But then deep down, I'm like, I don't really want to do that. But I was like, as long as they're happy, that's fine. But then I realized people would take advantage of that and be like, okay, well, Erika doesn't care. So we're just going to do blah, blah, blah. But then sometimes it was really putting me out. So then I went the whole other extreme to where I was like, I'm not going to get taken advantage of. I'm going to just do these things, these selfish things. I don't care about what other people think or say. And that's not loving or right either. And so there's a balance of that, and something I had to pray for was, Lord, please help me to be loving and kind to other people, and please don't let other people take advantage of me. Please show me discernment on what to just let go of and give to you versus when to stand my ground, because that's a really hard line, especially as Christ followers. We want to be very loving and kind and generous, but there are times where the Lord is going to tell us, no, don't do that. Don't accept that. I need you to stand your ground. But that's a hard line, and I still have to pray for that all the time because there's times where we do have to let things go and it's not fair, but praying for discernment in that. And then number 5, don't expect your friends to solve your problems. So this is a big thing, again, that I also struggled with, and I think I've shared this over the years. I'm not sure at this point, but I remember I would always call my friends for validation. Something would happen and I would call them instantly because I knew that once I talked to them that I would probably feel better. And for maybe 15 minutes after the call, I would feel better. And then 30 minutes would go by, an hour would go by, and then I would be like, I do not feel better. I'm not feeling better. And it's because I would expect my friends or my significant other to solve my problems, which is so unfair to them because they can't solve all of your problems. They can be there, they can be a good listener for you, but you can't expect your friends or other people to solve all your problems. You can expect them to be good listeners and let them know to. Sorry guys, I keep burping today. I don't know, I was drinking a bunch of tea. I feel like it's coming out. I'm trying to hide them, but it's not going well. Okay, so don't expect your friends to solve your problems. It's not fair to them. Imagine if your friend came to you really upset, expecting you to solve their problems and you didn't know the answer. That's not fair. So be a listening ear and tell them also what you need. That's so, so, so important. Telling your friends what you need. So whenever whenever you're going through something, go to them and be like, hey, I just need to vent and get this off my chest right now. So please don't say anything, just listen. So then they don't chime in when they're not supposed to. Or the other way around, where it's like, hey, I'm really struggling with this. Can you please give me some advice? Let them know what it is that you need. And if you don't know what you need, tell them that, hey, I don't really know what I need, but I need to just start talking and you're going to figure it out. So having that clear communication, that's another thing. Have crystal clear communication. And I want to add a number 6 in there that's not in my notes, but this is very important. Express your needs to your friend. If you feel like they haven't been spending enough time with you and you're feeling a little bit neglected, or in your romantic relationship, tell them that because they probably don't know. So express what you need. Don't ever think that you're asking for too much because you're not. I guarantee you, you're not. And there's going to be times where your friends or your partner is going to have to ask that of you. And wouldn't you rather know what they need versus them just be dying on the inside and not telling you? I would be like, oh my gosh, why didn't you tell me? Or, a lot of times we're like, let me know what you need. And then we don't want to ask people for what we actually need because we don't want to be a burden. No, forget that. We are called to carry each other's burdens. That's what the Lord says. And so, yeah, that's a lot of stuff on bonding, maintaining, keeping healthy relationships. It is one of the most important things you're going to do in your whole entire life. And it all starts with building that personal relationship with Christ. And then it's just going to overflow into your life. And so I really, really hope that this episode was helpful. I know how impactful bonding and maintaining relationships has been in my life, and I hope that it has the same outcome in your life. I know that it will and that it can, and I truly believe it's one of the greatest things that we can experience on this earth, and it makes it so heavenly and so much more full and so much more abundant and fun, and doing life with other people is amazing. It is just the greatest thing ever. So I really hope y'all like this episode. Make sure to subscribe, like, share with a friend. If you want to talk about a certain topic, you can email me. I think that's all I got. Remember that I'm posting every other Wednesday from now on. So you can tune in every other Wednesday and you can watch on YouTube, which is what you might be doing right now, or you can listen on a lot of the streaming sites as well. So thank you guys for tuning in. I hope to see you next time. Bye.